Hi everyone, it's Kibus here. Today I have a review of the newest RPG from Bethesda Softworks. Let's see if Fallout 4 is patched. Let's start with design as usual. If you played Fallout 3 or New Vegas, you will feel right at home. The newest installment in the series takes most of the mechanics right off those games, only with some slight but noticeable changes. First is the VATS system. That is a form of implementing stat-based combat in an FPS game. There are two major changes here. First is that when you enter it, the time doesn't completely stop, it just slows down, which forces you to decide quickly what to do. The critical strikes are no longer based on the luck alone. Each hit in VATS recharges your critical bar and you can use it for a critical strike anytime you choose. The RPG elements have also been redesigned for this game with improvements as good as those in combat system. The special rule set is backed up with perks, but this time you don't get additional stat system, and the first two are merged together. This makes the system more transparent and comprehensible, and thanks to no level cap gives you much more freedom than previous games. A crafting system is a novelty in the series. All the useless scrap you found in previous games now has a purpose, because you can use it to create equipment or set up settlements. The latter is quite important, because they can provide you with some usable items like bottle caps or all sorts of consumables. Everything that I just mentioned is an interesting enhancement to known formula, which adds to the experience and makes the game more interesting. But Fallout 4 isn't flawless. Staying with the mechanics, first mistakes are the inventory screens. Everything that I mentioned are interesting enhancements to a well-known formula, which adds to the experience and makes the game more interesting. But Fallout 4 isn't flawless. Staying with the mechanics, first mistakes are the inventory screens. They do have a few basic categories by which the items are organized, but this is way too little for this game. I've spent a lot of time in the inventory screen just because I couldn't find something, because items aren't sorted in any categories. Another new system is the way you use power armors. Now they use fusion cores in order to function. That means that you won't be running around in one all the time. I do understand and appreciate this decision, because you feel that it really is a special occasion when you use one. But on the other hand, it seems very unbalanced, with the speed at which they use the cores, and that NPC can run around all day in them without worrying about this. But not only mechanics suffers in this game. The story is so dull that after a week since finishing the game, I can hardly recall anything. There is a conflict between four factions in the Commonwealth. They all say what they do, but no one tells you why they do so. And if the character doesn't have a proper motivation for his action, that's a poorly written character. And this don't tell anything rule applies also to the mechanics, as they are not explained at all. The game doesn't bother to tell you that you can lean from behind the cover or what are caravans and why would you like to set them up. There are many more things this game doesn't tell you, even though it should. When you wander around the game world, you will quickly notice that there aren't that many quests in this game. It seems otherwise in the beginning, but soon you will realize that half of them are just made by copy-paste and the only difference is the location of the quest. On top of that, the game doesn't acknowledge that you visited and looted those locations before, so the quest items to retrieve will magically appear and all the enemies will respawn. I remember when playing The Witcher 3 when I visited a location before getting a quest, the items were there and the game would notice that in the dialogues. And while I'm at it, Bethesda decided to scrap the imperfect idea of a list of dialogue lines to choose from in favor of a 4-option system, which is all wrong. First, they felt that they must always use all 4 options, which results in repetition of choices, so you have both sure and okay at the same time. Second, the descriptions are very brief, so in the end you might not know what your character is going to say. And third, the only stat used in dialogues is now charisma. Previously, if there was an opportunity, your character could have used their intelligence stat to convince someone, but not this time. The only improvement over the old system is now the charisma-based options aren't clearly marked if they are going to work or not. But in order of the difficulty, they may be marked yellow or orange to indicate that it may require a high-level stat. The game also lacks in content. Not once, not twice I've visited an interesting location, only to find out that there is a bunch of raiders to kill there and not much more. It seems like if designers had much more planned for them, but they were rushed and had to fill the world with anything, and the mindless raiders were the easiest option. In the end, I award Fallout 4 only 5 points out of 10 for its design. I've spent with this game well over 100 hours, which does tell it isn't that bad. But on the other hand, you will very quickly notice that it's an empty eggshell with almost no content inside. For comparison, when I played Witcher 3, I visited every single location in there because they were interesting and polished. In Fallout 4, I don't think I've visited more than 60% of locations. In terms of technical polish, it's not much better. Okay, the game is much prettier than the previous installments. Faces of the characters finally doesn't look like creepy Russian toys, and the whole world is much more colorful, but still matches our vision of a post-apocalyptic wasteland. All the special effects are also much prettier, with really good lighting and some impressive things like soft jackets on characters or thunderstorms that are both pretty and terrifying. But even with few patches, the game can lose a few frames for no apparent reason, even in small locations with no enemies inside. This is really baffling, but as far as I can see on comparisons with older versions, it did get better. I could understand the drops in some intense fighting scenes, but when it happens without any reason, that means that there is a lot to improve. And finally, there is a bunch of other minor bugs to which you are definitely used to if you did play previous Bethesda games. Non-working objects like terminals are still present in the game. One time I got stuck in the elevator because I've saved the game while I was using one and I couldn't open the doors from inside. On occasion, the game fails to spawn quest items, which may prevent you from finishing some of the side quests. There aren't any game-breaking bugs, but still there is a lot to improve in this game. That's why I awarded 6 points out of 10 for Technicalities. Okay, so I have quite mixed feelings about the business side of this game as well. When it was first announced, it was roughly 6 months before the release, so we immediately got the long gameplay presentations and the release date, unlike many games that get announced with a CGI teaser 4 years before the release. I like it, and I think more publishers should do it, not only the ones that release their blockbusters yearly. Alongside there was also a season pass announced, so nothing unordinary. It was priced at $30, so about half of what many of those packs usually cost. But 3 months after the game release, somewhere in February, Bethesda decided it's too cheap, and since March 1st, it's $50. All the people that bought it before are going to get all the content, but not only I think that it is a really dirty trick to suddenly increase the price of anything, it's the DLC that we didn't know anything about, so you're still paying for whatever. Bethesda may claim that the plans have changed and now they aim to provide much more content, and that's why they do it. But it may be just a marketing gibberish to justify the rise, nothing more. That's one of the worst moves I can remember in recent gaming history, which does bring the score for marketing down quite a lot. The last thing in the marketing is also only announced, with not confirmation in reality yet. Fallout 4 is going to be the first console game to officially support mods. It should happen before the end of June for both Xbox One and PlayStation 4. I think that this is an important thing to happen, and it may be a game changer for the whole industry if they pull this one off. And just to encourage them, I'm going to award them an extra point for that. So to wrap it up, I award Bethesda 6 points out of 10 for its marketing and business. There you have it, a combined score of 17 out of 30 points for Fallout 4. This game definitely didn't deserve to be nominated to any of the Game of the Year awards in 2015, not in the state it was released. But if you enjoyed previous two games, I think it would be worth to wait for some complete edition on sale and get it for $40-50. With all the DLC and patches, I believe it will be worth your while, but not yet, unfortunately. That's all for today, and if you liked this review, don't forget to subscribe this channel and to follow Is It Patched on Facebook. And if you find my channel useful, please share it with your friends, as it means a lot to me.